Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Why don't we start with some quick introductions just around the table so everybody knows. I know you all know each other, but for the other people in the room.
Good morning, everyone. Marta Bertolio. I'm the director of the Montana Department of Commerce.
Hi, Joe Steinmetz. I'm the Supply and Transmission Services Officer at Northwestern Energy.
Cheryl Mayo. I'm representing Quantica Infrastructure. I'm Director of Marketing and filling in for John Chester.
I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm Executive Director at NextEra Energy Resources.
Hi, good morning. Ed Ryan, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Energy Transmission.
Good morning. Rob Corbin, SVP of Energy Development for Sadie Data Centers.
Mark Lambrecht, CEO of Montana Electric Cooperatives Association.
Sarah Clorgett, Holland and Hart, and today I'm representing a large customer group.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Bob Morris, Lance Energy Chair at Montana Tech, and I'm here representing the generation work group.
Yeah, great.
Sonia Nowakowski, I'm the Director of the Department of Environmental Quality, and I think Amy, we have some additional folks here.
Good morning, I'm Amy Gramos. I'm here representing Joe Geiger with MDU Resources. Kate Wilson, Bonneville Power Administration, I'm the Montana Liaison.
Mike Freeman with Berkshire Hathaway Energy Transmission.
Christian Bray, Policy Advisor for the Governor.
Morning, Seth Brower, Energy Bureau Chief for DEQ.
No pressure.
Everyone just shared their most embarrassing moment in junior high
How much time does everybody have? Dan Lloyd, Senior Manager of Community Relations with Grid United.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for your good work. This was a big task, and thank you to your leadership, Director Nowakowski, for your work, and Vice Chair Bertolio for your work. This was a heavy lift and important for Montana's energy future. I want to thank also all the Montanans that participated, energy producers, utilities, cooperatives, businesses, local leaders, and members of the public who dedicated their time to produce this result. When we first established this task force, I asked all of you to confront a big question facing Montana and, frankly, the entire nation. That's how do we increase the supply of affordable, reliable energy to meet the rising demand that we're seeing across the board so that the people who depend on our energy grid are well supplied, reliably supplied, and affordably supplied. Today, through your work, you've delivered a thoughtful, serious, and practical report that addresses that question, and I want to thank you for that. Your work confirms what we know. Montana is well positioned to lead our energy future. We're blessed with abundant energy resources, hardworking men and women who know how to develop them responsibly, and an economy that's ready to grow. But the opportunity alone is not enough. We must have policies, infrastructure, regulatory certainty, and long-term planning necessary to really seize this moment and turn this opportunity into affordable, reliable energy for Montana families and businesses. This report, those are just some of the ghosts that exist in this building. This report provides a roadmap for doing just that. It embraces our all-of-the-above approach by recognizing that Montana's energy future depends on a diverse portfolio of resources, including coal, oil, natural gas, hydro, wind, solar, geothermal, and nuclear. Sources that can improve reliability and give consumers more control over their energy costs. That approach reflects Montana common sense. We all know that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to our energy challenges. We need reliable power. We need adequate transmission. We need to strengthen our energy grid. And we need regulatory governance that is efficient, transparent, and predictable. And we need policies that encourage private sector investment instead of driving it away. Your recommendations are organized well around those fundamental goals. They call for reforms that strengthen utility regulation and provide greater certainty for energy producers, utilities, consumers, and investors who make long-term investment decisions here in the state. They call for stronger state leadership and coordination on energy policy, transmission planning, regional markets, infrastructure development, and public-private partnerships. And the recommendations also recognize that Montana must engage in the regional energy discussions that will shape the future and ensure that our interests, our communities, and our ratepayers have a seat at the table. They identify ways to responsibly serve new large energy users without shifting the costs onto consumers, whether they be residential, commercial, agricultural, or industrial. And they identify opportunities to advance new technologies and innovation for power coming from new sources like geothermal and nuclear. These are important recommendations. They reflect the fact that Montana's energy future is about more than producing power. It's about keeping the lights on during peak periods of high demand. It's about giving a manufacturer or a rancher or a small business owner or a hardworking family confidence in the future. It's about ensuring Montana can seize the economic opportunity that comes from being a state blessed with abundant energy resources, and we know that the implementation of these recommendations will require continued collaboration. Some recommendations will require action by the legislature. Others will involve the executive branch, state agencies, the Public Service Commission, utilities, cooperative, federal partners, and private investors. My administration will continue to be committed to continuing to work with each one of those to protect ratepayers and unleash American energy. In the short term, we will review these recommendations and look at ways to improve coordination amongst state agencies, strengthen Montana's engagement in the regional markets, and protect existing customers as new large loads look to connect to the grid. This report is not the end. In fact, it's just the beginning. It's the beginning of the next phase. The task force has set a strong direction for Montana's energy future. For that, I thank you on behalf of all of Montana. We must now translate your recommendations into action that delivers results for Montanans. Again, I want to thank each one of you for your time, expertise, and commitment to this work. Energy is complicated. You approach difficult issues seriously, considered all perspectives, and remain focused on the charge before you, finding ways to increase the supply of affordable and reliable power to Montana. Montana has a proud energy history, and with the right policies, the right investments, and the right leadership, we will have an even stronger energy future. Together, we will protect affordability, and will strengthen reliability, and will support responsible energy development, and will help ensure that Montana continues to lead in unleashing American energy. Again, thank you, and I've kept my fingers out, so I'll let you go to work. Thank you all for being here today and for your work, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the reception later this evening. Thank you so much. Good job.
Before I get started too, I found out early this morning that I think we have a couple members who are trapped in the Denver airport due to weather, and so I'm not sure if we have some members online, Jake, who would also like to introduce themselves. I think Senator Pope was going to try to join us, and perhaps Megan with Talon. I'm not sure if they were able to get on or not.
Okay, give me 1 second, see if I can.
Put you on the spot there.
These are big challenge goals.
Yeah.
They are.
Really
Yes. Well, as we pop those folks online, I also wanted to make sure that I thanked Governor Gianforte for providing me with the opportunity to chair this task force. I so appreciate his vision and his leadership and his direction to help us set Montana on a path to address our energy shortcomings. So go ahead, Senator Pope. Oh.
You're on mute, sir. Wait, that might be on our end.
Might be.
It's muted. It shows muted up right there.
I think it's on this now.
Well,
Best thing he said so far.
We'll keep working on. I think Senator Pope and I think Representative Perry was going to try to join us, and a couple others. So we'll circle back on that with the technology here. But Today marks a significant milestone for the task force, and I'm so pleased to be able to share this report with the governor. It culminated from a robust and thoughtful process that required a lot of dedication, a tremendous amount of dedication from each of you. And so I want to start by thanking members of the task force for your service and for your commitment to this effort. I also want to thank Director Bertolio for being a tremendous partner in helping guide this task force to move us forward. And last, I also want to thank DEQ staff and the Department of Commerce staff who carried out all the meeting logistics, the public outreach coordination, and the production of this final report. And specifically, I want to call out Energy Bureau Chief Ben Brower. If you will join me in a round of applause. Truly championed this effort and led the way. I know he worked specifically with the generation work group, but he had a hand in everything we did and in the production and final production and development of this report. And now he is in the bird's eye seat, I would say, to move these forward and work with each of us to keep this effort going forward. So when the governor established the Energy Task Force, he tasked us with evaluating Montana's energy policy. And the task force was very intentional about focusing on the scope of which we were directed. And our conversations were extensive, and they truly encompassed all corners of the energy landscape. Our discussions ranged from distributed energy resources and energy affordability to gas pipeline infrastructure, energy governance, and nuclear power. We talked about transmission. That was a very significant focus for this group. And the task force endorsed recommendations to assert Montana's priorities in regional transmission planning, to accelerate permitting of interstate transmission projects, and also to expand options for financing transmission infrastructure. We also wrestled with Montana's policies for serving large energy users and advanced recommendations that I believe will provide a clear path to service for new large loads in Montana while protecting Montana ratepayers. So grateful to everyone involved in that effort. I know that is something that spanned all of the work groups, and we continue to move forward on that. So thank you to the utilities, thank you to the large customers, thank you to the generation work group and the transmission team who all worked on this issue. On geothermal power, the task force identified strategies to provide a clear regulatory path for development of next generation baseload geothermal resources. And the task force also supported a recommendation to make targeted investments in energy savings measures and to work in partnership with the private sector to bolster expertise to that substantive, deliberate, so basically on energy efficiency technologies that will move us forward. In addition to these deliberations on energy policy and resource needs, we also kept a focus on energy governance. And I know that several work groups also worked hard to define the appropriate role and structure for state government in our energy future. And our recommendations in this area are going to create stronger energy leadership and coordination within state agencies, and they'll also support the legislature's efforts to establish a more effective structure for Montana's Public Service Commission. These discussions were guided by several expert presenters, by stakeholder input and public comments collected online, and then through the series of open houses at events in Butte, Miles City, and Colstrip. And a thank you to all of you members who also traveled to take part in all of those meetings. Senator Pope, Representative Perry, I know you guys were at every one of those meetings and so appreciated your leadership there. Throughout our deliberations, we maintained dialogue with the legislature's Energy and Technology Interim Committee, and we continue to work together on potential legislation to address large loads, as well as on transmission issues and Public Service Commission reform. Discussions on every one of these recommendations were complicated, they were long, and they often required a lot more than just one meeting to conclude. The task force did an outstanding job working together, considering each other's perspectives, and finding common ground. The process that the task force and its three subcommittees, I think, was commendable, and I think the final report really reflects your professional approach and your willingness to have open ears, to listen to all the perspectives, and as I mentioned, to find the common ground. So I just want to thank you again for all your time and your effort. I'm so pleased with the outcome in this report. I look forward to working with you on next steps. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Bertolio.
Thank you very much, Director. I first want to say good morning, everyone, but also thank you for being an amazing chair. I really feel lucky that I've gotten to be a vice chair with you, and you've been a great leader, so thank you very much for chairing this.
Thank you.
Secondly, I want to recognize Shannon Lurkins on my team at Commerce. He's worked hand in hand with Ben, and so I appreciate all your work, Cannon, back there. So this is an important moment for energy in Montana and for the Department of Commerce. We're at a point where energy is changing, and the recommendations we make today will help shape the future of our state for decades to come. At Commerce, our focus is economic development. That means making sure our businesses and everyday Montanans are set up for success. It means helping create, design, and support energy systems of the future in a way that strengthens our economy, creates good paying jobs, and uses resources we've been blessed with in Montana. I also strongly believe that government's role is to listen, to bring people together, to understand challenges, and to help create the conditions for success. Not to dictate how businesses should operate, but to work alongside with industry, communities, and stakeholders to find practical, durable solutions. That's exactly what this Energy Task Force has done. I want to say how proud I am of the work and the time that all of you have devoted to this. This is a busy group of people, leaders, experts, professionals who volunteered to be here and set aside other priorities and busy schedules to focus on Montana's future, and that matters. This is also the kind of group where people have worked to set aside differences, to listen to one another and find common ground. The choices in front of us are not small. They're big, complex decisions, but we've had the benefit of having real expertise in the room, and that's made this process stronger. My family is from the Butte area. I've seen firsthand how industries evolve, how economies shift, and how communities adapt. Montana has always been resilient. We've navigated change before, and we will again. What's different now is that we've been given a real opportunity by Governor Gianforte and through this task force to step back, to look at our history, to evaluate our current systems, and think intentionally about the future. None of us can predict exactly what the future will look like, but by bringing the right people to the table, by grounding our work in both expertise and Montana values, we can make thoughtful recommendations that position our state for long-term success. So thank you again for your time, your expertise, and your commitment to Montana. This work matters, and it will make a difference. So thank you very much.
I think another unique aspect of this task force and the work groups is that we weren't just waiting to come up with a report and then take action. We were taking action. We were very intentional about the work we were doing as we moved throughout this process. For example, engaging in speed to power and other federal opportunities. And so, Ben, would you like to join us at the table? I'd like Ben to give us an overview of some of the other items that we're already implementing and moving forward with.
Still the governor's.
You'll go for it.
It's an omen. Thank you, Director. So yeah, I'd like to provide just a brief update on a handful of the recommendations that we've begun to implement. I'm going to highlight progress on 3 of your recommendations and progress that we've made to date on those fronts. First off, on transmission development and permitting. As you know, in June 30, the governor joined 10 other Western governors in an endorsement of the West Tech 10-year transmission plan for the West. And in that same letter, the governors also launched PACT, a permitting alignment and coordination task force for Western states. Following the launch of PACT at the Western Governors Association annual meeting, DEQ's team has met with the PACT facilitators to begin identifying specific elements and outcomes for that initiative. Kickoff is scheduled for September. These steps begin that implementation of Recommendation 3C. And I'd also just note that, of course, this task force found that Montana's transmission permitting system really works very well. It's when transmission projects cross state lines, interact with federal land management agencies where things get complicated. And so this initiative is designed to reduce those delays and surface and resolve cross-jurisdictional issues that come up. Second, the large new load tariff proceeding. At the end of March, Northwestern filed a tariff with the Public Service Commission that defines the terms of service for new loads larger than 5 megawatts of demand that choose to take service from Northwestern Energy. And consistent with recommendation 4E of your report, DEQ has intervened in that tariff proceeding with the goals of providing large load customers with a clear, workable pathway to service on Northwestern's system, and also ensuring that existing Northwestern customers are not negatively impacted by the large load integration. Additionally, we're looking forward to using our intervention in that docket to ensure that load flexibility, pricing mechanisms, demand response offerings are incorporated as elements of that tariff to really enhance utilization of our existing grid infrastructure. The procedural calendar for the docket has not yet been set, but we expect that the proceeding will last over approximately the next 8 months. The third element I'd like to provide a brief update on is on the executive energy leadership recommendations. Recommendation 2A called for a memorandum of understanding to better define both the energy functions and coordination among executive branch agencies. First off, DEQ's Energy Bureau serves as the state energy office for Montana, and in that capacity, we provide unbiased energy information, policy analysis. We lead our state's energy emergency function. We also manage multiple pass-through funding sources that deliver targeted investment in grid upgrades, in new energy technology, and in energy efficiency technologies. We also already work very well with our colleagues at the Department of Commerce and coordinate with the Department of Labor and Industry on workforce development issues. We're in regular contact with the Public Service Commission senior staff. However, there's certainly room for improvement, and that's what this recommendation really got at, specifically establishing and regularly updating a state energy strategy, clearly defining the role of state energy functions, setting up a central point of contact for energy infrastructure developers, and then better coordinating with our federal partners, the legislature, and energy sector stakeholders. So DEQ has begun drafting that MOU. We'll formalize our roles and work with our partners, the Department of Commerce, to finalize and execute this agreement. I'll say just by way of closing that there's certainly a lot of work ahead. I'm confident that we're well positioned to build on the core functions and strengths of our team to deliver on these task force recommendations. Thank you.
Wanted to now turn it over to the work groups and the co-chairs of those work groups to share a few words about the work of those individual groups. And so, Bob, do you want to start with generation?
Sure. Thank you, Director Nowakowski. And thanks for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the generation work group. It was really a challenging and rewarding experience. But I want to start and recognize how the task force worked, not just what we produced. So as the governor mentioned, the group consisted of utilities, independent power producers, cooperatives, large industrial customers, legislatures, and even one academic. And we're all in the same room together, and we don't always agree on things. And we often compete with one another. Several competitors on the generation work group. We had Representative Gary Perry. Spencer is not here today from Nipsey. Ed's here, Berkshire Hathaway, Ryan from NextEra, and then Megan Toomey, I think, is in the Bozeman Airport right now, but with Talon Energy. And we had what really impressed me over the last 11 months is that again and again, everybody set aside their differences and came together to do what was right for Montana. And that's something that you can't mandate. It's because people showed up in good faith. And meeting after meeting, and with the objective to find common ground. We started out pretty slow, everybody was guarded, but by probably month 6 or 7, we kind of hit our stride and put our guards down, and it was real productive. I also want to recognize that public engagement was a very important part. So we did have public meetings in Butte, Colstrip, and Miles City, but where most of the public input came was the direct input, meeting by meeting, and there was a core group of people showed up. I see some of them sitting here, and they offered very thoughtful input, and that engagement also didn't happen by accident. It shows that Montanans are interested in their energy future. And some of this input did find its way into the report just at the last minute, but it did. And I want to reach out and thank McKenna Sellers with Montana Renewable Energy Association and Derek Goldwyn with the Northwest Energy Coalition for coming forward with some very constructive input, and I appreciate that. I'd also kind of like to underscore where we stand right now as a state. Montana, I like to say, is at an energy crossroads. The Colstrip Power Plant, which provides 37% of our baseload generation right now, and a skilled workforce in eastern Montana, is on the books to retire in 16 years. So that sounds like a long runway, but I think we all know that it isn't for major infrastructure. And so it's going to take a decade or more to get replacements for that. So, now's the time to start. Now, Montana's got a lot of interest right now in infrastructure development. If you look at Northwest Energy's interconnection queue, there's over 11 gigawatts of generation in that queue. 85% of it is wind, solar, and battery. So a lot of renewable energy. There's an appetite to do this in Montana. Okay, while it's a strong signal, a bunch of projects in the queue doesn't translate to projects actually getting built. So we've come forward with some recommendations to kind of help move that along, and to replace that baseload capacity that we have at Colstrip. And so we've got some recommendations to review our tax laws. Montana's taxes on energy infrastructure, as I've learned, are very high. And so we want to look at how do we lessen that burden to encourage investment of all types of different resources. We also, as the governor mentioned and Ben mentioned, that we put some specific language in there about easing regulations on geothermal and nuclear with the objective of, in 16 years, these can start to move the needle as we look to replace Colstrip. So really this report is a roadmap for the next 20 years and something we need to start on right now. And in closing, Montana has the resources and the workforce, and now we've got a set of concrete, broadly supported recommendations that we can take forward to the upcoming legislature in 2027 and beyond, so that when Colstrip does retire, Montanans are not scrambling. We're executing a plan that we've put together. And again, I want to reach out and thank the members of DEQ and Commerce for all of their work on this workforce. And again, to Ben Brower, who kept the generation work group out of the ditches. And and I also want to reiterate that our work doesn't end with this report. A lot of this work is just starting, and our work group is committed to stay engaged, to help the policymakers understand what we meant, and to help with more concrete plans as we move forward. So again, thank you on behalf of the Generation Work Group. It's been a very rewarding experience.
I don't know if Representative Perry is online, or if any of the other Generation Work Group members would like to add anything. Please feel free.
Bob, just thank you on behalf of everybody. Like, building consensus on these committees is not always easy, and you did it in a very diplomatic way and effective way, so thank you.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And I would thank all of the co-chairs and the members too. I did also sense that some of you were maybe a little competitive. I've often been told that I'm the best work group, we're the best work group.
Somebody got the report done first.
And I did appreciate that healthy competition and the drive. I know we sent out templates and worksheets and problem statement development to make sure we stayed on track to get this report done. And thank you to the chairs, the co-chairs, for filling out those worksheets and gathering all the thoughts and gathering the dissenting opinions and making sure we got all the perspectives. So thank you. With that, Sarah, do you want to share a few words for growing demand?
Sure. So I co-chaired with Travis Kavula, who I think most people know here has taken a new position. And so he had to step back at the end of our work when he got that new position at BPA Administrator. But we worked really closely, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get to learn so much from everybody, and especially from him. We focused on growing demand, especially connection to the grid, and that covered logistics, lots of conversations about rates, lots of conversations about regulation. And one of the big focuses I know has been in Montana in general and among this task force has been protecting ratepayers when you bring in those large loads. And luckily we had a lot of experience in our working group of both the large loads themselves, and also Northwestern came in and MDU came in, and we talked a lot about sort of how that has been done in other states to protect ratepayers. We had some speakers come in from other jurisdictions, from Canada, from New Mexico, different PSC member, their equivalent of the PSC members in other states. And so we tried to look at what our neighbors and what other people have successfully done to try and get some models working. And I know that there's been some discussion about not having the regular ratepayer on the task force, but I want to tell everybody that we had public participation that absolutely incorporated that. And large load customers, while we are often large in the energy we use, many are also ratepayers, and so they pay both for transmission and sometimes for generation. And we really worked hard to try and make sure that we were speaking, as well as the public and many other members, our legislative members as well too, that we were speaking on behalf of those ratepayers. And I think that a lot of our recommendations really show that that was something not just from our working group, but in the general conversation that we really worked hard to try and do. And that gets very complicated because the markets, when you're working with regional markets and the different functions of the market in Montana with choice customers and regulated customers, it becomes very complicated very fast. And so as we continue the conversation with large loads coming on, I would really encourage the public especially, and to go back to those detailed reports that we did on, and it's all on the website, I know. But that was something where we really worked through as a working group the details of what that should look like, even more than we could do in the full report. And so I think there was some really interesting discussion there that's reflected in those. And I also want to send a shout out to Northwestern, especially, I don't know where Mike is. Is he behind me?
He's hiding.
Oh, he's there. Okay. To Northwestern, because we disagree with Northwestern a lot, especially at the PSC level. And we really came through with some big common ground, some really big pieces. And those are already reflected, I think, in some of the legislation that's under conversation right now. We're working through that with lots of different stakeholders, including the public, and I know that ETIC is working really, really hard on that, but it was partially grown out of some of the compromises that we were able to reach by sometimes vehement conversations at the working group level. So I wanted to send that shout out specifically in that thanks. And last, there's a lot of opportunity for Montana here for large loads that's different in the other states, and we talked about that a lot, because the way that choice works in Montana is not exactly the same. It is, in fact, a unique opportunity around the country. And so even though there are success stories in other places, Montana has to sort of forge our own way to some degree because we have a unique history and a unique setup here, which makes us very attractive to a lot of large loads and large customers. But it also presents specific challenges. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to have to work through as we move forward with the large loads connecting to the grid. So thank you.
Thanks. Any of the growing demand members want to add anything? I'm not sure if anyone's online or in the room. Go ahead, Mark.
Just wanted to add, and recognize everybody that participated in more than just one work group. It seemed like most everybody
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
even if we were on growing demand, we were participating and listening in on transmission and generation. Everything's so interconnected, so I thought that was really helpful from my perspective, and I think it showed itself in the final report.
Great. Well, Dan, would you like to share for transmission and markets?
Sure, and I don't think we really participated in the competition, but
Why was that, Dan?
that being said, transmission and market sounds like the third and fourth group. No, our group, had two main focus areas: transmission as kind of the requisite infrastructure that is needed to connect growing generation to new and existing loads. I think between the summaries that we've had, we've kind of hit the high points of that, but I'll just emphasize the serendipitous timing of this work and the release of a first ever west-wide transmission plan. As part of our transmission dialogue, we really broke the challenges of transmission into the common framework of the 3 Ps: planning, permitting, and paying. And we think that West Tech and the governor's endorsement of West Tech and engagement in PACT will position Montana to benefit from all of the discussion and planning and now hopefully execution of building new interregional transmission in the West. On the markets piece, our group had a number of presentations from experts on what is happening in the West. Markets have been part of the conversation in the West for a long time, and I would say in about the last decade, there's been a real effort to establish more regional, I'll use air quotes, markets, because that was one thing that this group discussed too, that there's kind of gradations of what folks might mean when they say a market. And I would say just the point that I would re-emphasize on markets is this group made some recommendations around improving the state's engagement in a number of these regional, increasingly important regional conversations that are happening.
Were we able to start out our audio and see Senator Pope if we can hear you?
I'm going to try to patch into my computer. It's the in-room TV. It sounds like they can hear him online.
Okay.
Senator Pope, if you want to go ahead and try.
Well, I'll give it a try.
Oh, good.
Thumbs up.
We can hear you in the room now.
Well, I'll be way brief. I'm in Denver Airport, and sorry, I should be sitting there, and the gods were not with me last night. But in any case, I did want to just say that I've had a terrific experience. I really appreciate every single member of our group. I think we were able to do this without it getting heavily political or otherwise confrontational. And that's the way we're going to need to roll. I did want to say something, Madam Chair, if I might, that we spoke about our North Star. And I think for the public listening and going forward, we need to stay focused on an idea that, in referencing Director Bertolio's comments, we in government listen. But we're also, I think, challenged by the idea that we need to create a strategic plan. Alice in Wonderland, it was in somewhere in that wonderful book that they say, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. Our North Star is critical I think the public sector, the government, and our public who are very, very interested and passionate about this subject need to identify a path forward. And I think that's very hard work that works in front of us. I will say that it's in the public interest for us to establish a very explicit energy vision for our energy future. And that vision needs to be also moving and not just put on a shelf. It needs to be a living document, and therefore it will change over time. I read yesterday that in the next 15 years, we will invest more in our grid and our energy future as a country than we have in the last 150 years. And we've heard how urgent this is, and it's not just about data centers, because I'll be in the legislature and we will be talking about data centers a lot, but large loads. But this is really about the growth in our population base and the electrification of transmission. Our cars and trucks. Having a little moment there. And also, agriculture and healthcare, communications, telemedicine. There's an awful lot to why this is such an urgent and important conversation right now. So I'll stop. I guess I must be the politician in the room. Sorry. And at this point, I just want to tell you how really exciting it's been to be part of this. I think the work is in front of us. Madam Chair, I hope you'll bring us together again in a routine way, because this group can talk about difficult things. And I will say that the legislature sometimes has a really hard time doing that. I think our Energy Committee, ETIC, is capable of the same quality of conversation here, and I'm on ETIC, and we will be bringing the ideas from this group forward in a legislative manner where appropriate. So that's all. I could keep going. Thank you for the time. And I'll be heading back to my Cape Cod family vacation in 2 hours. And but I'll just feel the love. I'll be the proxy for beach time tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pope.
And pardon me, Senator Pope reminded me of a couple things. I need a thank you to all of the members of the Transmission and Markets Working Group, and an apology for everyone having had to listen to me for the last year stumble through facilitating all of those meetings. So thanks and apologies.
Would any other task force members like to share any additional thoughts as we wrap up?
I would just thank Dan and Senator Pope for their leadership and having some big conversations. We took on some large tasks and concepts, and I also really appreciated the external speakers that they found to come in and kind of educate us and ask good questions. So cheers to you.
Well, also, obviously, we always take public comment, and so do you want to invite anybody to share from the audience any public comments? We always keep the door open for public comment. So I think if you have public comment, if you want to just stand and share your comments.
Via the mic.
Go right ahead.
Sure. Thanks all. Nick Fitzmaurice. I'm the Energy Transition Engineer with the Montana Environmental Information Center. I appreciate the opportunity to weigh in again. Again, we'd like to acknowledge and express our appreciation for this group's ongoing focus on supporting the development of interregional electric transmission infrastructure, regional energy markets, enhanced geothermal technologies, energy efficiency measures, and distributed energy resources. We agree that pursuing these strategies will support reliable and affordable energy in Montana. MEIC does remain concerned that other recommendations in the final report could have the opposite effect and potentially increase costs of continuing to operate the energy system and introducing unnecessary risks that could threaten future reliability. In the coming months and years, we hope that the executive and other policymakers don't lose track of what should be the underlying motive for all of this work: providing reliable and affordable energy for Montanans. Many of the recommendations are geared towards supporting the development of industry in Montana, and this isn't inherently bad, but it also draws attention away from providing affordable energy to existing residential and small business customers. When implementing these policy recommendations, the ongoing question should always be, is this truly the lowest cost and lowest risk option for ensuring affordable and reliable energy in the state? This consideration needs to take into account the availability of technologies, the availability, reliability, and price volatility of supply chains for fuels and essential generation components, the varying lead times required to develop different energy infrastructure alternatives, the risks for creating future stranded utility assets, whether externalities will be borne by the public, and importantly, the total lifetime costs to customers associated with different energy technologies. We need to take a closer look at certain structural incentives that may be driving energy unaffordability. This task force has talked about reforming the makeup of the Public Service Commission, but it hasn't explored how modernizing certain commission legislative directives could be an important avenue for driving energy affordability. More closely scrutinizing approved returns on equity and allowable utility expenditures could be a start. Currently, utilities pass fuel costs directly to ratepayers, but what would happen if utilities were incentivized or required to reduce these and other variable pass-through expenses? Also, how can we prevent utilities from gold-plating infrastructure to drive their returns higher? These and other important questions would warrant further consideration if we're to be successful in achieving affordable and reliable energy in Montana. Thanks for the time and for considering these comments and for the work of this task force.
Any other public comment in the room? I see Spencer. I won't put him on the spot. Spencer, do you want to share any comments?
Hey, thanks. I mentioned that Bonnie was working for me earlier, but regret I can't be there in person with you today, but I'm proud of this report, and thanks to Bob and Brett Perry for the generation work group. I'm one of those competitors who had some friendly, I think, discussions with other colleagues in the room, and thanks for facilitating that too. So I look forward to helping implement the task force, and I think it's just a great work product.
Anyone else? Again, I want to thank you all for your work and your dedication, and the work isn't done. We still have a lot to do. I will be reaching out and working with you as we move forward on a lot of these proposals through the legislature, hoping to see you at the podium to support those proposals, as well as on the executive updates. We will keep you updated on the MOU efforts to talk about that North Star and energy strategy and get those moving forward. As well, I think important, I love my job as the director of DEQ. I think most of you know, I have been working in energy for the last 20 years, and it certainly holds a special place in my heart. Happy to work on energy legislation and these energy proposals. I think everybody in this room has done an excellent job of having those hard conversations about talking about how we can have industry, growing industry, we can have new large loads, we can still protect Montana ratepayers and small businesses. Both can happen, they're not mutually exclusive, and this group has worked to thread that needle and come up with proposals to ensure that that occurs. And that's good news for Montana, Montana's tax base, Montana. We're all looking to reduce our costs, and I so appreciate the path that you have set on this. And we'll come back together, likely as the legislature convenes, to talk about some of those legislative proposals and maybe strategize about who wants to come to the podium on those. And then we will provide regular updates throughout session. And then at the close of session, what I would like to do is have a commitment that we come back together and see what we got across the finish line, what misses we had, and how we circle back and continue this work. The task force is allowed to continue, and so I think we will see next May where we land and go from there. But again, I want to thank you all for your time and your commitment and the conversation. Huge round of applause for all of you, so thank you. We do have someone with their hand raised online.
Yeah, thank you. We'd have a couple of attendees all delighted to talk if you did have public comment. Susan Evans, your microphone should be available if you have public comment.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Susan Evans from Polson. I'm a
small business owner in a fourth generation Montana. I want to thank you for taking public comments today, and especially thank you to the Energy Task Force for your recommendations. It's encouraging to hear support for renewable energy development. However, I think our state policy should and can prioritize renewables and energy storage over fossil fuel and nuclear energy sources. A recent New York Times video talked about energy abundance in Australia. They are producing so much solar and wind power that they chose to give away free electricity between 9 and 3 p.m. This encouraged their people to schedule programmable appliances to run at that time. They're charging their electric vehicles and filling up their storage batteries for free. Demand moved from peak times to the middle of the day. That is pure genius. Meanwhile, the Chinese are putting up solar panels that equivalent to 3 large coal-fired plants every 8 hours. It's hard to imagine that the Chinese have moved from being wasteful energy consumers to leading the world in renewable, cheap energy production. Again, let's look at Australia and China. China is producing cheap, clean energy, and Australia is giving away free electricity. Neither of them have more wind or sun than we have, except maybe Great Falls area. They live on the same planet that we do. We could be doing the same thing if we had a sensible energy policy. I would also like to say that I absolutely oppose any use whatsoever of nuclear power in our geothermally active state. Yellowstone Park nearby and our multitude of hot springs areas makes the use of nuclear energy straight up suicidal. I repeat, use of nuclear energy here or anywhere is suicidal. Thank you for your consideration. And again, thank you to the task force for your incredible cooperative attitude towards each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And then our other hand raised is the Montana Renewable Energy Association. You should be able to talk.
All right, good morning. Hello, everyone. McKenna Sellers, Executive Director for the Montana Renewable Energy Association. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you, task force members, DEQ and Commerce staff, and everyone who contributed their time and expertise to this incredible report. The recommendations before us reflect a significant amount of work, but importantly, as everyone has said, but I'll say it too, the collaborative approach that has characterized the task force process and the cross-collaboration between the subcommittees. One of the strengths of this work has been the willingness to look at Montana's energy system as a whole, from large-scale infrastructure, markets opportunities, to the major energy users, down to households, small businesses, and customers with energy choice. The breadth is important as Montana considers how to better coordinate our infrastructure planning, evaluate our energy system, and provide leadership and better energy governance structures moving forward. As we implement these recommendations as a state, I hope that collectively we can continue to keep consumer energy costs and customer choice, distributed energy resources at the forefront. Montana's energy strategy should recognize the role that both large and small-scale resources can play in meeting growing demand, improving its resilience, and giving customers more options to manage their energy needs and costs. I appreciate the emphasis that this report gives on reducing barriers to responsible private sector investment and developing some cross-agency workforce strategies. Successfully meeting Montana's future energy needs will require coordination not only across our agencies, but across sectors and levels of our energy system. Our utilities, our large energy users, households, small businesses, energy providers, our communities, and our renewable energy industry, like the association that I represent, we all have important roles to play. Of course, after putting together a report of this caliber, the natural question becomes, what do we do with it after the fact? It's very encouraging that the implementation and the short-term actions were already included in the report, and including next steps between DEQ and Commerce, the Year Memorandum of Understanding. So I hope that the legislature will use this report as a launch pad for action in January. And thank you so much for all your hard work.
I do have one additional hand from Derek Goldman. Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm the Montana Policy and Regulatory Associate for the Northwest Energy Coalition. Our mission is to advance clean, equitable, and affordable energy policies in Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. I want to thank the Governor's Office and both department directors and all the subcommittee co-chairs and members. We've been engaged in the process since the beginning, and we appreciate all the opportunities to provide input to the subcommittees and especially to share the new Montana Regional Transmission Connectivity Study that we helped bring to fruition. We're excited to see that the task force has already moved to implement some things, including endorsing the West Tech report as well as a PACT endorsement. At the Northwest Energy Coalition, we share many of the goals of the task force, from grid reliability to transmission development, and we agree with many of the recommendations in the report, including markets and transmission development, and supporting the development of geothermal, as well as distributed energy resources. I look forward to working with the administration and the next legislature to further explore and advance some of these recommendations. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, and I think that speaks to also just the public involvement. I sure appreciated the open houses in Butte and Colstrip and Miles City. They were all very different, but they certainly shaped our recommendations, and have so appreciated the public involvement throughout this process. And again, thank you guys for your time and your effort, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
External. Good.
Yeah. Busy.